What is up, guys? It is AJ from MMA Experts, and we are talking about the fight between Anderson Silva and Uriah Hall. We saw Uriah Hall pull off the biggest win of his career against Anderson Silva, the legend of MMA. I mean, former UFC champion, 16-fight win streak in the UFC, which was the longest ever. And honestly, he's been past his prime for a while now. But let's talk about the fight a bit, and I'll talk about what actually happened in this matchup. Round number one, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Anderson Silva looked excellent in round one. Controlling the range, moving forward, pressuring Uriah Hall. And you could tell Uriah Hall, when he was in there, maybe a bit starstruck. I mentioned that on the live stream, which is normal though. Fighting against somebody that you've looked up to your whole career. I mean, it kind of makes sense that you'd go in there and be a little thrown off early. Then round number two comes out, and granted 10-9 for round one, Anderson Silva. Next round, a bit more competitive for Uriah, but still Anderson Silva putting the pressure on Uriah, moving him backwards. Uriah seemed to struggle to open up a bit in the early rounds, but at the end of the day, Uriah throughout his career has been shown to be a bit of a late starter. Granted, if you look back on The Ultimate Fighter, some emphatic quick knockouts, but as far as recent wins, split decision over Antonio Carlos Jr., and then a third round knockout in a fight he was losing against Bevon Lewis, kind of similar to this fight with Anderson here. And granted, if this was a 3-round fight, we would have saw Anderson Silva with the decision victory, in my opinion. Round number three, Anderson Silva moving well, again, coming forward, but I noticed he was getting a bit overzealous, opening up a bit too much, and Uriah Hall is dangerous at all times. And then you look towards the end of that round, the beautiful counter strike by Uriah puts Anderson down, and thankfully the round ends. But honestly, if there was 10 more seconds, there would have been a third round knockout in this fight. Now, round number four begins, and I really feel that Anderson should have been a bit more defensive, and I wish he wouldn't have rushed forward as much, but Uriah obviously fighting very smart and relaxed. Anderson Silva putting the pressure on him, and getting a little bit overzealous, as I mentioned, over aggressive, leaves his chin out a bit, caught by a massive punch, put down, and Uriah Hall knocks out Anderson Silva, or rather TKOs Anderson Silva in the biggest win of his career. Great performance by Uriah as far as getting the win. Wasn't like he was dominant throughout. I gave Anderson Silva round 1 and 2, gave Uriah round 3, and then he knocked him out in round number 4. So for Uriah Hall, massive win, big opportunity for him next. He's getting close towards the top of the division. Granted, Anderson Silva unranked, legend of the sport. So obviously it's a big win on paper, and especially for the resume. He said this is his championship, and to me, I totally understand that. If you beat Anderson Silva, that is a championship. Next opponent for Uriah Hall, I like two names. I like Jacare Souza, or I like the fight against Yoel Romero. He talked about Israel Adesanya, but he's not at that level just yet. We got to remember recently Paulo Costa really beat up Uriah Hall. So I think we do either Romero or Jacare for Uriah Hall next. The UFC may go a totally different direction, and we may see him in a totally different matchup. But personally, for me, those are the two fights that I think should happen, possibly for Uriah. Two options, rather. Now, for Anderson Silva, he talked about maybe this isn't his last fight as we thought, but just his last UFC fight. I really want him to retire. Anderson Silva, please consider retiring, man. You're a legend. You've done everything. There's nothing left. But the money, I understand. It keeps coming in. Bellator's going to probably offer him a contract. He's probably going to go to Bellator and fight. I have a crazy idea if he continues fighting in Bellator. Let's do it. Lyoto Machida, Anderson Silva, the super fight between these two. I feel like Lyoto Machida is definitely a lot younger and looking better at this point. But granted, if Anderson goes to Bellator, the drug testing isn't as serious. Maybe we'll see Anderson looking a bit more like prime form. But I do think first option for Anderson's retirement. Second option, I guess, would be going to Bellator and I guess having some fun fights. But I really hope that he doesn't stick around too much longer if he does continue to fight. Maybe 3 more at the max. I really don't want to see him progress into his late 40s. He's already 45 years old. That's well past the prime of most fighters. But all right, guys, that is pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the what actually happened full fight breakdown of Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Also, guys, follow my social media, Instagram, Twitter, and I'll see you all in the next video.